episode 1 of Afterthoughts. I'm your host, Carson Willie, and this is new. This is a podcast that I created. I want to make you think. I want to make you question things. I want to educate you, educate myself, learn things from you guys, my audience, as well as you guys learn things from me. I think my goal behind this podcast specifically is to kind of understand, what does it mean to be human? Why do we act the way we do? Why do we make the decisions we make? Why do we react the way that we do to other people? Learning all these things. And I think as I have a deeper understanding of, humans, I think that it's going to help understand myself better. And it's kind of my goal for you as well, as a audience viewer, that as you learn more about what it means to be human, you understand yourself a little bit better, and it enriches relationships and processes and the overall quality of your life in general. I mean, that's realistically my goal. I want to add value to the viewer. And so, I'm thankful for you guys coming on this ride. It's going to be a good one. This is my life's purpose, figure out people, understand people, their stories, their behaviors, and share that with you guys. Today in particular, I'm going to be talking about reframing your mind. I think that if there's one specific thing as a human we can do that's powerful enough, is simply shifting our perspective or reframing our perspective. And kind of some, I have 5 ways. I did some research, 5 ways I think are powerful ways to reshape and reframe your reality that could change your life drastically. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But these are 5 that I thought about and researched, and I think genuinely can change the quality of your life drastically. But first I want to talk about this concept. The frame is more important than the picture. The frame is more important than the picture. What do I mean by that? How we frame an experience largely determines the value of the experience. Why? Well, our brain in particular takes shortcuts in the way it frames things. I mean, everything we do, your brain frames things to take shortcuts and perceive things. So if you're in a room, think about all the things that you can process. You walk into a room, there's tons of things that you can, your brain has to take in, but you can't solely focus on all those things at once. And so your brain basically frames out, what it's there to do, what's its intended value, or what is the attention in which you've placed your mind on, and your mind's going to frame that out. And so the frame is more important than the picture when it comes to life in general and how we look at things. Think of it, the frame of things, the presentation of a product or things in your life, packaging, the name of something can quite literally outright affect how you perceive its value or its importance in your life. So paradoxically, by adding perceived value to something, it can also lower the physiological value of the same thing. But for an example, have you ever, back in the 90s, and I know our parents can attest to this, when you walked into an electronics store, and I've had this even as a child, in your childhood, you walk into a store and there's tons of wires, it's messy, the walls are lined with things, electronics. I mean, when you think electronics, sometimes you think a mess. And so think about how clustered that is, and your brain trying to process that. You don't really perceive that things as super valuable in there, right? Or you walk into a pawn shop, it's clustered. There's tons of things. Well, look at the way iPhone does it. Have you ever noticed this? Step back for a moment. They're reframing your mindset. They're putting the frame and making it more important than the picture. So the iPhone itself, when you look at just an iPhone, if there's nothing, a bunch of things surrounded by for it, around it, you wouldn't look at it as a valuable object. But what iPhone does specifically really well is they space things. So you have this iPhone sitting in the middle of, its display, and then you have feet on both sides, 5 feet on both sides of just white space. There's no color. There's nothing there. It's just this white space, right? By simply giving the white space, iPhone has reframed your mind to look at something and frame that iPhone as something valuable. They do the same thing in art galleries. You think about it. sometimes you look at art and it's hanging up in a house or whatever, and it's on a bunch of pictures on a wall. Okay, it's a nice piece of art, but you wouldn't look at it as any more valuable. But you walk into an art gallery and this thing sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars. How do they get people to do that? Well, they put this one piece or whatever it is in a blank open space. Think about how open art galleries are. That is quite literally humans reframing your own mindset. They're making the frame more important than the picture to make you believe that something is more valuable. And the thing is your brain will do that every single time. If you frame it. And the most successful people in life, the greatest humans in history, they obsess over the frame of something more than the object itself or the product itself, because they understand how to perceive something as valuable, right? And small details can really paint the picture for you. And that's why we're talking about framing your mindset today in particular. Is it is so important in which the frame you put something. Again, experiences are largely determined on how we frame them. Okay? You can change the way you look at something by reframing it, and it will drastically change your mood, your outcome, your steps going forward, the way you react to the situation. It's extremely important. And small details can paint that picture. And again, we look back to things like when you put 4K at the end of a video. That doesn't really mean anything to anybody, but the viewer ideally, naturally wants to they see 4K and they associate said video with some sort of like high resolution, it's quality, whatever. They're right away. That's where the brain goes. And so that's why it's so important about the things I talk about today. Why it's so important to make the frame bigger than the picture. And how you shift that. And we're going to talk about that specifically today. So the first one I specifically want to talk about, a frame of mind, is, let's see here. I had it right here. The illusion of security. What do I mean by that? The illusion of security. So security is one of the most important psychological needs that we need. You look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and illusion, or security in particular is number 2. Okay. But it's all an illusion. You're not actually safe. Think about all the things you can't control in your life. You're not actually safe. It's all an illusion, right? It is one of the most important psychological things we need, physiological things humans must need, but it paradoxically could be your greatest downfall in terms of your ability to adapt to a situation can be quite literally hindered. Your ability to adapt to hard situations can be hindered by your illusion of security, your safety net. Helen Keller, a quote by her, "Security is mostly a superstition. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing." So we often mistake our routine and our growth and stability. We mistake our routine and stability for growth, when in reality, it's masking fear and stagnation. So you think by running through these, it's good to have routine. I'm not saying it doesn't, but think about the people who go through the same cycle every day. It's good to have stability and routine, but if that's what you hinge yourself on, you are not safe. You're settling. You're not a risk taker. The idea of life, the greatest people in the world, the people who did the most amazing things, never saw security as an option. They never grasped for the idea of security in their life. And our brain is wired to seek safety, but it can instinctively resist a change. Think about, your friends, you want to do something, daring, right? And you have this feeling like, oh, I'm not going to jump. I'm not going to jump forward. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take that risk. It doesn't seem safe. It doesn't seem logical. And although that this is an extremely important trait we have as humans, keeps us alive, it also could be what is stopping you from taking the biggest jumps in your life, whether it's the security of your reputation, the security of your own, emotional state and vulnerability. People don't want to be open and vulnerable in relationships. People don't want to put themselves out. People don't want to put themselves out online, right? That is, we mistake that as security. People settle for the status quo. And by literally settling for the status quo, you are accepting that you're going to be mediocre because you want security in your life. Your parents telling you, Go get the job that, fits your degree. Go get the 4-year degree. Go get the safe job. Don't chase your dreams. Don't risk. Don't go travel the world, whatever it may be. Choose the partner that doesn't have some of the red flags, or they don't quite fit everything you want in life. Security, right? And again, it goes back to Helen Keller saying, security is a superstition. Life is either daring or it's not. Life's not worth living if you're thinking in a security mindset. It goes back to this paradox, the region beta paradox, where it basically is the idea that people are only motivated by extreme acts of emotional or mental stress rather than when a situation is mildly discomforting. So it's not so bad. But they would actually be better off if their situation was worse. They would be better off if their situation was worse because it would cause them to take actual action in their life, right? So your friend, Chris Williams talks about this on his podcast. Your friend that works at a job that they hate, it's not a good job for them. It doesn't fit the career. It's not moving them forward in what they really want to do, right? But their boss just isn't that bad enough. The pay is good enough. The benefits are good enough. It's just not so bad. They're never going to move. They're never going to be motivated to move because of the illusion of security that they think that they have, right? They're in the bad relationship. It's not good for them, but that person's comfortable. It's not so bad. They have someone to come home to every night. They might argue, a lot, and it might not be a healthy relationship and wear and tears on the mental health, but at least they have somebody, right? They would be better off that situation got worse or it would physically make them move or change and react to the situation in their life and change it. Okay. So how do we reframe security? Because it's wired in all of us. We all just want to security. How do we reframe that? Security isn't always safety. Like, I want you to think of security as something other than safety. It can be a subtle form of self-sabotage, and it keeps you from risk and self-evolution. Your body naturally is in a state where it wants to just survive, right? And we all have this itch to do more, but that urge to survive and just go through the motions and exist is stronger. And so you need to reframe what security is. It's an apparition. It doesn't exist, right? Life is not worth living if you can't take risk. So your reality will change drastically when you take risk and live life with a mentality of no true security, but rather leaning on the skills that you've built and the confidence you've gained from those. Alex Hormozi tells it best. You don't gain confidence from shouting affirmations in the mirror. You gain confidence by doing what you said you were going to do and proving to yourself over and over again that you are who you say you are. And that takes pushing security to the side and taking risk. So you need to make the decision. Are you going to step forward and take the jump that you're supposed to take? Are you going to sit back and live a comfortable life, a secure life? The lie that's being sold to you. That'd be my first one. My second one, my second frame of mind. Keep going on this. The rejection complex. This one's a big one. This one in particular is a favorite of mine. It's one that I've had to reframe my life specifically. I'd have to reframe what rejection means to me. Rejection in general, whether interpersonal rejection or societal rejection, it literally activates the same exact parts of your brain where humans experience physical pain. It's kind of a scary thought when you think about it, right? When you think about physical pain, it's discomforting. People don't like physical pain. Rejection literally activates the exact same part of your brain. And the pressures of society that we have today don't help with this phenomenon. But what if you look at rejection as like a gift? Again, reframing it. Why does it have to be a bad thing? Rejection isn't a bad thing. Quote by John Cabot here. Maybe the fear is that we are less than what we think we are, when actually the actuality of it is we are much more. John Cabot, such a powerful quote. Thinking about the fear that people have. We all think that we're not good enough. We all think that we can't do things, right? We're all naturally cynics of our own lives, right? And unless you reframe what rejection is, you're not going to change that mindset, right? It goes back to that security thing. People fear rejection because it's not secure. There's no security in it. It's tough. It's uncomfortable, especially societally, being rejected by your peers. But what if it's not a bad thing? Obviously, you need to gauge in which the situation is having that effect. But, most people fear rejection not because of what the event it is itself, whether they see a pretty girl. It's not so much the fear of actually going and doing the said thing, but it's the story that they attach to it. So you're attaching this frame in which if I'm rejected, it means I'm not enough, or there's something wrong with me, right? And our brains interpret social exclusion as a survival threat, right? That's a survival to us. Like it's a threat to us and our survival. Why am I not enough? Why don't I fit in? Why doesn't the girl that I really want to talk to, why doesn't she, like me, right? Because we're creatures of societal nature and community, right? So like we avoid asking people for help or opportunities because we're afraid maybe that they're going to say no. Okay, we're people pleasing. We don't want to upset people. Are you a people pleaser? Think about that. Do you go out of your way to please people because out of fear of that person being mad at you or having an uncomfortable conversation or cutting that person out of your life? The region beta paradox, maybe it's not so bad. We take silence or indifference personally. Someone doesn't even have to say words to us and we look at their body language and things like that as rejection. When in reality, you don't really know. You're actually really bad at interpreting what that might be. So let's reframe what rejection really could be, because it is a gift. As much as it's a threat to our survival, again, it goes back into the risk taking. It's a risk. It's a threat to our survival. It's out of the ordinary. It's uncomfortable. But when you step in and take rejection, it's not a reflection of, you need to understand that rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's a redirection, it's feedback, and it's someone else's limitation. Those three things. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It is redirection, feedback, or someone else's limitation. So I want you to think about it in this way. How would you act if you knew that every single no was one step closer to the yes you were looking for? And I'd heard this a while back, and I don't know where I heard it, but this genuinely reframed it for me. I thought about, I think about it in terms of dating specifically. As someone who's searching for, my ideal partner, my mate in life, there's this looming fear that like, I can't go up to a pretty girl, she'll reject me. But what if you knew, if there was a number attached to it, how would you act if someone came up to you and said, 30 girls are going to say no to you before the 31st is the yes that you're looking for. That is your future partner, your wife. How fast would you go to get 30 no's from people? You'd probably be rushing to talk to the first 30 girls you can see, right? Put it in that mindset. Reframe that, right? It's not a reflection of you. Rejection is not always a reflection of you. It could be a limitation of other people. They don't see what you see. Biggest risk takers in life, the most successful people, rejected by society, cast out, seen as you're not going to succeed. You're not going to make it to, you're not going to do what you say you're going to do. It's their limitation. That doesn't mean it's you. It's feedback. And it's feedback that's appropriate to take and important to take, but it's not you. And so look at rejection differently. Look at rejection as a gift. Every no you get is closer to the yes that you need. And you only need one yes to change your life. One yes. That's all it takes. One win. All right, we'll move on. Number 3, the impending doom paradox. What do I mean by this? The impending doom paradox. Have you ever sat around and thought you have this really good wave of things going on in your life? Things are just lining up. They're working out for you. And you're like, man, they're just going well. And you have this thought of like, it's got to be too good to be true, right? Like something's not right. Like something is going to happen bad and it's going to derail all this. There's no way I could have this much luck or this much success or whatever it may be. And this specifically shows up a lot in high achievers and anxious minds. We often live in a state of warning or waiting, a state of waiting for the next thing to go. This is too good to be true. When is it going to end? Right? We're waiting for the next thing to go wrong, even when everything is fine. Studies have shown that actually 80% of the things that we are afraid may happen don't actually ever happen. 80%. We trick ourselves, and 80% of the things that we worry about don't actually take fruition. We cause our own anxiousness. A quote that I found on this: peace isn't the absence of danger, rather the presence of trust. It's interesting. Peace isn't the absence of danger, rather the presence of trust. So danger's looming all around us all the time. Things can go wrong at any moment. You have no control of those things. But do you trust the systems that you've set up in place? Because you never fall to the standards or the levels of your goal. You always fall to the standards of your systems, right? And so you no longer look at the goal of things, and that's the trust you build with yourself. That's the not shouting affirmations in the mirror, but rather building such personal trust with yourself by doing the things you say you're going to do. And so you can't be surprised when things work out the way they do. When things are going as so well, you need to reflect back and go, how did I get to this point? Because that was a chain reaction of all the things you did right. Kind of psychologically, the root of this, it's a mix of hypervigilance. So like past trauma or stress, things have gone different, wrong in our lives in the past. And a belief that peace isn't sustainable or deserved. And this is the hardest part, is we as humans don't believe we deserve good things. Especially if you're a high achiever or someone who's anxious. You've had bad relationships in the past. You've had a business fail. You don't believe that you're worthy. That's self-love. Yeah, think about it. The one person you're going to talk to the most in your life is you. So why are you so hard on yourself? Why don't you deserve it? Why do we believe that? Maybe you do. Maybe you've worked hard enough that you do deserve those things. And so, this kind of manifests in our life in a way that, you feel uneasy during calm moments or periods of sustenance. Again, things are going well in your life. And there's just this looming feeling of like, something's uneasy, something doesn't seem right. You sabotage things out of the fear that they won't last. And this one is super big, very common in relationships that lack arguments or low spots in them. So if you've ever been around somebody, I know people have had this, where you're in a relationship that you guys just don't fight. You just get along, right? Things just seem healthy, but too healthy. Why aren't we fighting? When is this feeling going to go away? And you feel really comfortable with that person. And most people often mistake this, and I know this in particular, when you get butterflies in your stomach. Do you know that's actually it's a signal of fear, that your body's telling you something's wrong. It's like a waving a red flag. But when you feel really comfortable around someone and you don't feel maybe that those butterflies that you get with that person, and most people are looking for those butterflies because we don't believe that we deserve something that's just peaceful, when in reality that's all we're chasing. So we're always bracing for impact emotionally, and it increases our cortisol and it damages our health, right? So how do we reframe that? How do we go from, things are going really well, something's got to go wrong at some point? Sure, but we all have a bad day coming. We're guaranteed that. Why are you worried in advance? Why not soak up the things that you've reaped in your life? Everything you do in your life is a reaction, or you're accountable for it. Put it that way. Everything that happens in your life is your own. If your life sucks, that is probably your fault. It's not your surroundings. It's your circumstances. Oh, the world, I'm a victim. No, it's your fault. But it's the same thing as when you're in a period of sustenance and things are going well and you find the person you're looking for, don't sabotage that. Sit back, reframe, and say, I do deserve this. I've worked to this point. I've been the person I need to be to deserve and earn this. But I have to continue to do the things that got me to this point. And that's where that fall off comes, is we get afraid that we don't deserve it. And so we stop doing the things that even got us to that point in the first place. So reframing that mindset. Just because your nervous system is used to chaos doesn't mean it's your truth. Just because your nervous system is used to chaos doesn't mean that's your truth. You need to learn to trust safety without suspicion. Not an illusion, but you need to learn to trust safety without suspicion. You need to see life in full focus, and you must learn to trust the flow of life's up and downs and their trends, because bad things will happen to you. Why be sad in advance? Life is meant to go up and down. Ride that roller coaster. Trust who you are. Trust the systems you've put in place. You do deserve good things. Don't sabotage things because you don't think you do. Okay. Moving on to number 4. Give me a break here. Number 4. The superiority of farsightedness. This one's a complex one. But basically, the idea behind what the superiority of farsightedness is, farsighted thinkers often overvalue future outcomes as a cost of present joy, believing long-term success justifies short-term emptiness. What do I mean by that? People who think too far in the future are costing themselves the present joy of what's happening in the moment, and they believe that long-term success, the things that will happen in the future, justifies missing out on the things that they believe now. So instead of going to hang out with your friends and spend a day with them after you've worked really hard for the last couple of weeks, nope, if I take a day off, I'm not going to be successful in the future. You're taking the present joy you have now, the opportunity to be happy in this moment and enjoy something with your friends, something fulfilling for what you believe to be down the road. And the truth of the matter is that's never going to stop. If that's the frame in which you put success, it's never going to go away. You're never going to magically one day arrive and, be happy. Oh, I made it. This was where I wanted to be. I can relax now. It'll never be that way. You'll continue to look down the line and think, nope, I must sacrifice something now in the present for something that could be or might never happen, or we might never get there and we'll never reach the goal that you have for yourself. You're your own worst critic. Quote by Seneca here: the greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. Wow. Such a powerful quote. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy. This idea that we expect these things to happen because of the work we put in now. We believe that we can shape our future. We can control the things that happen to us going forward. And to some degree we can. But that hangs on tomorrow, meaning the expectancy tomorrow, and you lose today. You lose sight of what is today. So the blend of delayed gratification wiring and a belief that fulfillment is only earned through struggle or future arrival points, often rooted in childhood praise for planning, self-denial, or productivity. We live in an age right now in society where being busy is seen as success. It is seen as we are all in this busy bee work era. We believe that unless we set up the things we need for the future, we're not successful until we believe society sees us as successful. And that can't happen when you're young. That can't happen. You might be ahead of your peers. No, it's not enough. It'll never be good enough, right? And as children, we were praised for being productive in school. Okay, complete your work. A's get the best. Oh, nope. You need to think about your future. College this, get a safe job. These all tie in, right? You're obsessive about goal setting and future projections, but you're never really thinking about now. What are your goals in a week? What are your goals in a month? But instead we think future, we're thinking down the line, oh, I can't wait to grow up. Yeah, that was one of the biggest lies I probably heard growing up. I look back now is the lie that I just can't wait to get older. And then you get older and you realize that realistically, none of it matters. These goals, these pressures we put on ourselves, they don't determine our self-worth. They don't determine where we're going to go in life. We downplay, present moment joy. Oh, I can't be having fun. I feel guilty about having fun. Or we get a small win. You woke up today at 6 a.m. Small win. You went to the gym. Maybe it wasn't the best workout, but you moved and you got a lift in. That's a small win. You completed your homework assignment on time and sent out some emails. Small win, right? And when you're resting, you're doing nothing. And I know I'm guilty of this. When I sit down and I'm not doing things, I feel like my self-worth declines a little bit. I feel like I'm not doing anything productive that is going to affect me later down the line. And there's some value to the urgency there, but it really can overtake a lot of the present moment joy you have. And so it can really emotionally distance you from other people, by basically focusing and disciplining yourself. And that can be extremely valuable, but can be the one thing that when you get to the mountaintop, you won't be happy. You'll be miserable. So congratulations on being successful, but you're not happy, right? So we need to reframe. How do we reframe this mindset? How do we take ourselves and outside of ourselves, outside of our current situation, instead of thinking so far down the line, how do we take ourselves up out of that and think about, okay, what is happening to me right now? How can I enjoy the present moment right now? How do I think about the small wins now, right? That lead to the big wins later. So vision is powerful, but it's not superior to presence. What you see far ahead means little if you can't feel where you are. Life just isn't just a mission, it's also a moment. Don't miss the gift of now while chasing the promise of later. Step back. Be easy on yourself. Enjoy things. Work hard. Go after your goals. Be a risk taker. But sit back and enjoy the things that you do. Give yourself compliments. Reward yourself for small wins. You went to the gym today? I'm proud of you. You woke up today at 6 a.m. when you said you were going to do so? I'm proud of you. Right? That's a win. So step back and enjoy the moment you're in. Go spend time with your friends. Go take a trip. Don't wait 5 years when you feel like you have the money. Go take that trip now. Okay? Step back and realize that life isn't guaranteed. You have no idea if you're waking up tomorrow. Enjoy now. Enjoy where you're at right now. Okay. The final pillar of reframing your reality. This one's probably a favorite of mine. This one's powerful. And I think it's one that affects all of us really deeply in society. I think we're all victims of this. The mirage of value. So we often chase things that look valuable on the outside, but leave us empty inside, mistaking visibility, status, or admiration for true worth. So I was watching a Chris Williamson podcast. And I love Chris Williamson, his podcast. And he had talked about something that Joe Rogan had talked about. And I went back and researched and looked at it a little bit. And I don't know if you can really put this better. Okay? It's called Rogan's value conflation. Look at the car he's driving. Look at the watch he's wearing. Look at the girl he's with. That is unattainable to many people, so it seems like it's valuable. But then you attained it. And you realized, oh, this isn't valuable. This is just difficult to get. And there's a difference, a big difference. What's valuable is something that fulfills you intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and lovingly. Most smart people realize that there is value in stepping outside of their comfort, but on the other side of discomfort, something valuable. Someone told you worthwhile things were difficult to attain because if they weren't difficult to attain, they wouldn't be worthwhile. This is how non-valuable but difficult things get slipped into our desires without us noticing. Attaining something worthwhile is often going to be difficult, but just because it's difficult doesn't mean it's worthwhile. So just because something is difficult or hard to obtain doesn't make it valuable. A lie that we have sold to ourselves probably our entire lives. We believe that we need to be externally validated and self-worth needs to be proven and not just felt. We are often shaped by our environments and we put ourselves in places that we feel seen more than being known. And this happens a lot in social groups, work. We throw our lives away for the validation of others. We hang that on other people and we reward people for seeing us while we're here, not knowing us. And this is a massive issue, I feel like, specifically in dating with women. I think that women are seen and not known, and I don't think that's their fault. I think, our basic human nature as men is to look at women and think, wow, she's so pretty. And that's what we see, right? But do we know who that person is? Right? We often look at people for, it's interesting. We have this like dynamic with ourselves where we like combat ourselves and what we really want, right? We basically reward people for the things we do and not who we are, right? We want people to love us for who we are, but instead we do things for validation of others and so that they love us for what we do. This is a conflation. This is an issue that we run into often. Okay? Whether it be choosing careers and relationships and goals based on how they look rather than how they actually feel. Chasing things for money rather than does that job actually fulfill you? Do you enjoy your career? We get a high from attention, but then when it's not there anymore, we feel lonely. It's this crash. We equate luxury or busyness or performance with personal worth. If you didn't perform in a sports game, you're not a good player. That reflects your worth. Oh, if you're not busy, you're not going to be successful. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Okay, a car. If it's not a Lamborghini or a new Mercedes and it's a Toyota Camry, it's not as nice. It's not as good. It's not seen as much, right? We disconnect our inner values due to external referencing. What do I mean by that? We will put down, you see a pretty girl and this girl's pretty and she might highlight some of the things you do, but there's this disconnect to values you have internally, and you're willing to throw away some of those values or hide some of those values instead of speaking up because the girl's pretty. Because we equate that is valuable. Oh, that was really hard to get. I'm not going to find another girl as pretty as her. So I need to be a shell of myself to make sure I conform to this person's reality and keeping them around. And in the process of doing that, we become resentful. We become very unhappy. And we sabotage a lot of things in our life. And you're chronically dissatisfied even after reaching success. It goes back to this impending doom thing. Or this farsightedness. You get to the mountaintop and you're not satisfied. It's never enough for you. There's always a new mountain to reach. Chris Williamson had said this again. He'd gotten this quote. You said you'd be happy with goals you've already achieved, or something like that. Like, you get to that goal and you don't enjoy it because it just isn't, it's like the needle's always moving. And sure, that's good for personal human growth, but it's not good for, your satisfaction and happiness long term. Right? So how do we reframe ourselves from thinking that things are rooted in value just because they're hard to get? Because they're not. Just because it was hard to get does not make it valuable. So not everything shiny is solid. Real value is quiet, lasting, and aligned with your truth. Not someone else's applause. The goal isn't to look valuable, it's to be fulfilled. Chase depth, not decoration. So well put, so well said. Chase things that fulfill you. Chase things that you like. It doesn't have to have society's big shiny medal or ribbon on it. It doesn't have to be the prettiest girl. It needs to be the girl that makes you feel alive, sets your soul on fire. Go work a job that, forget about the money. The money will come. Chase your passions. Chase your dreams. Just because it's not valuable to that person right now doesn't mean it's not valuable in general. It's valuable to you. And that's what matters. Chase things that are valuable to you. And you will find true happiness and satisfaction in life. And it's weird when you chase your own fulfillment through healthy manners, obviously. Things just happen for you. The money finds its way. You always find a way to survive. You always find your needs met. Work hard. You'll be fulfilled in life. Your relationships will be stable. And you'll live a life that a lot of people dream of living and just don't quite know where to get. But it all starts with the theme of this episode: reframing your mindset. The frame is bigger than the picture. Can't say that enough. The frame is bigger than the picture. So those are the 5 steps. Those are 5 frames, and there's so many more to go through. Those are 5 frames that I think genuinely can change the trajectory of your life if you can reframe it. I think 50% of your life's outcome and the things you do in life and the places you go and how you react to situations and just basically your overall satisfaction, fulfillment, and happiness in life, 50% of that, if not more, is totally predicated on your ability to reframe the way you look at things. Glass half full, glass half empty. So start with that. Instead of changing the actions, the processes, the goals, or the people, look at you first. How do you look at yourself? How do you look at your goals? Do you love yourself? Are you easy on yourself? What do you seem as valuable? Ask yourself these hard questions, and you're going to find yourself end up in a place where when you reframe those, you're just going to find satisfaction and fulfillment in everything you do. I guarantee it. So that's it for episode 1 of Afterthoughts. I hope I made you think a little bit. I hope I gave you some valuable information that you learned throughout this podcast. Keep up with us. We're going to have a lot of interviews coming up. It won't just be me all the time. I'll be talking to some people in the future about some really interesting topics. And if there's things that you think I should talk about, drop a comment. Let me know things you want to hear from me. But that's it for episode 1 of Afterthoughts. I appreciate you guys tuning in.